So it's your boy Michael Vamper. So I had an interesting I've been thinking a lot lately. My channel's really been drifting towards going to these museums and checking things out. Good morning, by the way. And I think a fascinating discussion. I've been looking at a lot of paleo art channels. And currently in the world, we're at the dinosaur renaissance. We're still in the dinosaur renaissance, I feel like. You have a lot of these TV shows that are being dropped, like Walking with Dinosaurs. I remember they just dropped Walking with Dinosaurs, Planet Dinosaur. And, the way that we used to look at these animals like super predators or slow moving lizards and all that is really being changed, and they're a lot more complex than we ever thought, which is super cool. And it's very fascinating. As I go to these museums and I watch these documentaries and everything, we're finding out that now they might have had feathers. They're smart, they're intelligent. I think that my favorite animal is starting to be Deinonychus. He's really like a super predator when you think about it. Medium size, but the animal has got a ginormous bite force. He's able to really just run at a decent speed. They're saying they don't think he's as fast as what he was. But then you got Jurassic Park Rebirth that's coming out, which I'm going to do a film review of that too, while we're on the topic and everything. But it's really interesting to me that as we start understanding how these animals looked and how these animals operated, it kind of veers, even that fossil I showed you guys. If that was a flesh and blood creature that was reptilian in appearance but had feathers on it, if I was an ancient human in the world, I would have called that a dragon. And I'm not saying that that's far-fetched or impossible or even that's the case. But when you look at these episodes like Walking with Dinosaurs, the newer ones where they have Deinonychus covered in feathers and he's running, he's basically got reptilian skin on the face. If you are an ancient person in the present world back then, what would you really have called that animal? Evolutionists and creationists have been debating about this topic for years, and I get it. Maybe the world is a lot older. I'm leaning towards that side, not because I discredit the Bible, but I believe that the Bible is way more complex than what we realize. I'm finding things out that are way more complex than what we realize. But is it impossible? I don't think so. And as we're describing these creatures, what they act like and they look like, what they're capable of, it really kind of does fit the description. There's nobody on this channel that says, okay, if you were to take a dinosaur and put him into the ancient time periods, you have a creature that, is reptilian in appearance with feathers on it, and that in some cases can fly or glide. Would that not be considered a dragon? I'm just saying. And when you have these movies like Jurassic Park that's coming out and everything, then when you take into account that their closest relatives are alligators, crocodiles, crocodilians, turtles, in some cases, birds of today, it's kind of like they're a hybrid. And in ways, when people do dragon depictions, they always paint wings, but some ancient cultures used to say dragons would have feathers. It was a creature with feathers. There's some descriptions where they have fleshly wings. There's some where they have feathers. So this is really something to think about. And I'm just saying, in one of these medieval books, they grew a description of a crocodile and called it a dragon, but they also had a reptilian creature that was upright and had wings. So as science is starting to uncover more and more stuff, I really think it's fascinating. Or we have paleo artists that are doing great descriptions, by the way, too. Would it be impossible? And some are even saying that, they didn't die out as we thought they originally died out, though. You know, if crocodiles can overcome a mass extinction and get into here, who's to say that other animals couldn't be able to do that? You know, I'm just saying, it's very fascinating to me. And, even the Bible says that there were giants in the earth in those days. You know, when you look at a T-Rex, that's a pretty big animal. So when the Bible's saying, there were giants in the earth in those days, it can mean a number of things too. It doesn't have to mean, Nephilim and all that or stuff like that. It could actually be talking about the current fauna that was around. A mammoth is a ginormous mammoth. You saw that skeleton I posted and everything too. Utah raptor. If you saw a Utah raptor, back in the day with feathers and wings, you would probably in your mind assume, what is that? That animal's not, like regular animals. They might have called that a dragon. And I think that's a great correlation to have. In my understanding of scriptures and, even in some cases how angels would appear to people in the Bible. No, I'm not calling angels dinosaurs or dragons or anything. But I'm saying that, science, as we're uncovering things, a lot of stuff is being revealed. So maybe descendants. And they've also theorized that, if they kept evolving in the present times, they'd be smaller. There are tribes all across the world that have described dinosaurs in some way, shape, or form. You can't put that, or they describe dragons, And when you have an animal that is has the jaws of like a lizard or a crocodile, but is covered in feathers, what is that? That could be a dragon. Oh, dang, that's my neighbor. But basically, as we go along this channel, because this channel is predominantly for freediving, but I'm taking time. I have not been in the water lately and everything. I'm actually going to be dropping vlogs to explain what's been going on, but it's coming real soon. But we're in a time in the world where there are new revelations that are being shown and everything. Even with understanding of the Bible's a lot deeper than what people realize now. There's more, information that's being studied on the Bible in those cultures back in the day. But the world is ancient. The world is ages old. There's a lot of wisdom and things that are hidden. But I'm of the assumption that there may be a remnant of the dinosaurs that lived amongst people. I'm Christian. I'm going to just keep it a buck with you. I am Christian. I do believe God created the earth, the moon, the stars, and everything at the same time. I'm not necessarily a young earth creationist. I'm a creationist, but I don't necessarily lean towards young earth. And I don't necessarily lean towards God did things by evolution. I'm somewhere in the middle. I know it's possible. I know Jesus is Lord. I do believe wholeheartedly in Revelation that he's coming back soon. Let me claim that and be clear. But I'm saying, I think this whole journey of just understanding how things came about is a lot deeper than a lot of people are starting to realize now. And dinosaurs is being one of them. When you have an episode like Walking with Dinosaurs where it actively shows you that these raptors had feathers, but they were pack hunters. Maybe an ancient person would have came across one and be like, man, this thing is smarter. They said dragons had savage intelligence and everything, intelligence. So this is just something to note. And I want to drop this vlog. Could dragons and dinosaurs actually be the same thing? Let me know in the comment section what you think about this topic.